Hello, I'm Maurice Bernard. This is my official YouTube channel. I'll be keeping you updated with the latest news, so please subscribe to my channel. What fascinates me most is Tracy's behavior. Tracy has always been a woman who sees 10 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. She does not react emotionally first. She calculates, she observes, she waits. That is why I do not believe for one second that Tracy is still uncertain about Ethan being Phoebe's father. In my opinion, she already knows. Maybe she does not have official proof yet. Maybe she has not heard Ethan confess the truth directly. But Tracy has seen enough pieces to understand what is happening. The way Ethan reacts around Phoebe, the guilt in his eyes, the emotional hesitation every time Delilah's name is mentioned, all of it points toward a truth that Tracy has likely already figured out. And honestly, that realization changes everything. The moment Tracy accepts that Ethan is probably Phoebe's father, the entire storyline transforms from a simple adoption story into a dangerous emotional negotiation. Because now Tracy faces a conflict that cuts directly into the heart of the Quartermain family. On one side is Ethan, a young man connected to Luke's legacy and possibly connected by blood to Phoebe. On the other side is Brooke Lynn, who has already emotionally become Phoebe's mother long before any legal papers are signed. That is what makes this story so compelling to me. Nobody here is entirely selfish, yet everyone is acting out of fear. Brooke Lynn fears losing the child she already loves. Ethan fears stepping into a fatherhood he may not be emotionally prepared for. Tracy fears what kind of instability Ethan could bring into Phoebe's life if he suddenly claims his role publicly. And underneath all of it is the shadow of Luke, whose influence still hangs over this family even after all this time. I actually think Luke's memory is the emotional center of this storyline, even if nobody says it directly. Ethan carries pieces of Luke within him, both the charm and the unpredictability. Tracy knows that better than anyone. She loved Luke, fought with Luke, protected Luke, and suffered because of Luke for years. So when she looks at Ethan, I think she sees not only a frightened young man, but also echoes of the chaos Luke used to bring into every room he entered. That is why I believe Tracy's growing determination to make Brooke Lynn Phoebe's legal mother is not simply about control. I think it is about protection. Tracy may genuinely believe that Phoebe will have a safer, more stable future inside the Quartermain mansion with Brooke Lynn than she would with Ethan trying to navigate fatherhood while carrying all the emotional baggage connected to Luke's legacy. Still, this is Tracy we are talking about, and Tracy never plays a simple game. She protects the family, yes, but she also manipulates situations when necessary. That is why I believe she is already preparing conditions for Ethan behind closed doors. I can almost see it happening. Tracy offering emotional support, financial security, and perhaps even something much bigger in exchange for Ethan stepping aside quietly. And that is where this storyline becomes explosive, because I truly believe Tracy may be preparing to use Luke's inheritance or legacy as leverage. The possibility that Ethan could receive a special portion of Luke's legacy from Tracy changes the emotional stakes dramatically. This is no longer only about custody. It becomes about identity, belonging, and emotional debt. Imagine the pressure Ethan would feel if Tracy offered him recognition, financial stability, or even a symbolic connection to Luke in exchange for allowing Brooke Lynn to raise Phoebe legally. Would that be generosity or manipulation? Honestly, I think it is both. That is why I find Tracy so endlessly fascinating as a character, even after all these years. She rarely acts from one single emotion. Love, fear, control, guilt, loyalty, and ambition all blend together inside her decisions. She may honestly believe she is doing the right thing for Phoebe while also strategically protecting the Quartermain family from uncertainty at the same time. And let us not forget how emotionally attached Brooklyn has become. That part matters deeply. I I think some viewers underestimate how quickly emotional motherhood can develop in soap operas, especially in a house like the Quartermain Mansion, where family bonds become intense very quickly. Brooklyn is not treating Phoebe like a temporary responsibility anymore. She is emotionally building her future around this child. Losing Phoebe now would not feel like losing a legal case. It would feel like losing a daughter. That emotional reality is exactly why Tracy is becoming more aggressive behind the scenes. She knows Brooklyn would be devastated if Ethan suddenly stepped forward publicly as the father. She also understands that once blood ties become official in Port Charles, situations become very difficult to control. Tracy wants certainty before chaos begins. What really intrigues me is Ethan himself. I do not think he entered this situation planning to become part of a major family war. In many ways, he looks emotionally overwhelmed. But the problem is that secrets never stay manageable on General Hospital. The longer Ethan waits, the more dangerous the truth becomes. And now I think Tracy is beginning to close in around him emotionally. I can almost sense Tracy testing him in conversations, watching his reactions carefully, measuring his weaknesses. She knows Ethan wants connection. She knows he has always carried emotional wounds connected to Luke and his complicated place within the Spencer family legacy. Tracy may use that vulnerability very carefully. Some fans might view that as cruel, but honestly, I think Tracy sees herself as protecting the future. Whether she is right or wrong is another question entirely. There is also the issue of whether Ethan truly believes he deserves to raise Phoebe himself. That question keeps staying in the back of my mind. Ethan may love Phoebe deeply, but love does not automatically create stability. And I think Tracy is counting on Ethan eventually recognizing that truth himself. If she can convince him that Brooklyn offers Phoebe a safer future, Ethan may voluntarily step aside even while it breaks his heart. But soap operas are never that simple, are they? Because every time someone sacrifices a child for what they believe is the greater good, emotional consequences eventually explode later. That is one of the oldest patterns in General Hospital history. Secrets about parentage always return. Hidden truths always resurface. Emotional compromises always create future pain. That is why I do not believe this storyline ends quietly with adoption papers being signed and everyone smiling together in the Quartermain living room. No, this story feels much more dangerous than that. The emotional tension is building too strongly. Ethan's connection to Luke is too important. Tracy's fear is becoming too intense. Brooklyn's attachment to Phoebe is growing too deep. All the ingredients for a future explosion are already there. I also keep wondering whether Tracy's actions may unintentionally push Ethan closer to claiming Phoebe publicly instead of backing away. Tracy is brilliant, but sometimes her attempts to control situations create the exact rebellion she fears. If Ethan starts feeling manipulated or emotionally cornered, he may suddenly decide to fight for Phoebe instead of surrendering quietly. And if that happens, the Quartermain mansion could become emotionally divided in ways we have not seen in a long time. I would not even be surprised if other family members eventually question Tracy's methods. Because while Tracy may believe she is protecting Brooklyn and Phoebe, there is a fine line between protecting a family and controlling people's lives. General Hospital loves exploring that moral gray area, especially through characters like Tracy, who are both deeply loving and deeply manipulative at the same time. Another detail I find fascinating is how this storyline reflects generational fear. Tracy grew up in a world where family, reputation, inheritance, and stability mattered above almost everything else. Ethan comes from a more emotionally fractured background shaped by Luke's unpredictable lifestyle. Brooklyn exists somewhere in the middle, wanting emotional connection but also craving security. Phoebe becomes the emotional center where all those fears collide. And honestly, that is why this storyline feels so powerful to me as an older viewer. It is not only about who gets custody of a child, it is about what kind of family survives into the future. Tracy sees Phoebe as a chance to strengthen the Quartermain legacy emotionally. Ethan may see Phoebe as his last real connection to something pure after years of instability. Brooklyn sees Phoebe as love. Those competing emotional truths make every scene feel layered and meaningful. I also think the writers are carefully preparing for a moment where Ethan finally confesses everything directly to Tracy. That scene could become one of the strongest emotional moments this show has delivered in months if written correctly. Because I do not think Tracy will react with simple anger or simple compassion. I think her reaction will be deeply complicated. Part of her may feel sympathy for Ethan as Luke's son. Another part may immediately begin strategizing how to protect Brooklyn's future. That duality is exactly why Tracy remains one of the greatest characters this show has ever created. As I watch these episodes unfold, I keep coming back to one thought over and over again. Tracy is not afraid of Ethan because he is dangerous in the traditional sense. She is afraid because he represents unpredictability. He represents emotional risk. And Tracy hates uncertainty more than almost anything else. That fear is pushing her toward increasingly bold decisions. Offering Ethan part of Luke's legacy, negotiating conditions for Phoebe's future, emotionally pressuring him to think about Brooklyn first, all of it points toward a woman trying desperately to hold control over a situation that may already be slipping beyond her reach. And perhaps that is the true emotional heart of this storyline. Tracy cannot stop time. She cannot erase blood ties. She cannot completely control Ethan's heart. No matter how intelligent or powerful she is, emotions eventually create chaos that money and strategy cannot fully contain. As a longtime viewer, I find myself completely invested because this storyline feels deeply human beneath all the soap opera drama. It is about family, fear, love, inheritance, identity, and sacrifice. those themes never become outdated. They are the reason many of us have stayed loyal to General Hospital for so many decades. Right now, I honestly believe the biggest shock is still ahead of us. Ethan's truth has not fully exploded yet. Tracy's conditions have not all been revealed. Brooklyn still does not understand the full emotional danger surrounding Phoebe's future. And Luke's shadow still hangs over every decision being made. That is why every scene feels charged with tension lately. One confession could change everything. One legal document could divide the family. One emotional decision from Ethan could either secure Phoebe's future or throw the entire Quartermain household into emotional chaos. Thank you for watching my video. I will regularly update you with the latest news about the drama General Hospital, so please stay tuned.